Before you move into a nursing home or help a loved one make that decision, you need to hear this story. At 81, he thought he was doing the right thing. His family encouraged it. The brochures promised comfort, safety, and care. But just weeks after settling in, reality hit hard. The freedom he once had vanished. The daily routines, the small joys, even the sense of purpose, gone. What seemed like a smart, safe decision turned into the biggest regret of his life. In this video, he shares 7 powerful lessons no one talks about until it's too late. If you're in your 50s, 60s, or older, or helping your parents navigate this stage of life, this might be one of the most important videos you'll ever watch. Because once you move into a nursing home, getting out isn't as simple as you think. And what you lose, your independence, your dignity, your connection to the real world, might cost more than you realize. This isn't just a personal story. It's a warning, a wake-up call. Stay with us and hear what he wishes someone had told him before he made a decision that changed everything. You might be surprised by what you learn, and grateful you heard it in time. Lesson number 1. When freedom is no longer a given, when you've lived for 6 or 7 decades, you start to realize that the most valuable thing you have isn't money, status, or even time. It's freedom. The freedom to choose when to wake up, what to eat, what to wear, how to spend your day, and when to simply sit in silence. These little daily decisions are the fabric of your identity. But in a nursing home, those freedoms slowly slip away. Your day is no longer your own. Breakfast is served at a set time, regardless of whether you're hungry. Lights go off at a scheduled hour, even if you're not ready to sleep. You want to take a walk? You'll need to wait for assistance, and that's if someone's available. Even the simple act of picking your clothes or choosing your meal might be limited. Gradually, you begin to feel like a passenger in your own life. You follow someone else's schedule, live by someone else's rules, and function within a system that doesn't always see you as a whole person. You stop protesting when the food isn't what you want. You stop asking to go outside just for fresh air. Over time, you adapt, not because you want to, but because it becomes easier than constantly asking for permission. And in doing so, you lose pieces of yourself. That's the silent cost no one warns you about. Many people convince themselves that it's fine. I'm old now, what do I need all that independence for? But the truth is, once it's gone, you realize just how much it meant. Independence isn't just about movement. It's about dignity, identity, and purpose. It's about feeling like your life still belongs to you. When you lose that, you don't just lose control over your day. You lose the very essence of what made your life worth living. So before you decide, or before you help someone you love decide, to move into a nursing home, take a moment to think carefully. Ask yourself, am I truly ready to give up the small freedoms that make life mine? Because once you trade your independence for convenience, it's incredibly hard to get it back. And more often than not, we don't realize what we've lost until it's already too late. Lesson number 2, feeling forgotten. One of the hardest things about growing older, especially after moving into a nursing home, is the slow, painful realization that you're being forgotten. In the beginning, it doesn't feel that way. Your family reassures you with warm smiles and promises of regular visits. And at first, they come. Your daughter drops by once a week, your grandchildren visit on weekends, and for a little while, you feel connected, still a part of the outside world. But over time, those visits become less frequent. The calls are shorter or they stop altogether. Holidays, once filled with joy and shared traditions, become quiet reminders of how plans can change at the last minute. We'll come by soon, they say, but somehow soon never quite comes. Life moves on, and you begin to watch it from the sidelines. It's not that your family stops loving you. The love remains. But love without presence starts to feel like a memory instead of something real. You become a name they mention, a photo on their phone, a voice they hear when they remember to call. And as time passes, the sense of being disconnected from the world grows deeper. You hear about family news after the fact, see pictures instead of people, and feel like a guest in your own story. The loneliness isn't just about being physically alone. It's the emotional distance, the quiet spaces where connection used to live. You stop reaching out because you don't want to be a burden. You tell yourself they're busy, they have their own lives, and you're right. but that doesn't make the silence any easier. What hurts most is knowing you're still here, still needing love, conversation, touch, but you're no longer part of their routine. You become invisible in the most human way possible, slowly, unintentionally, and without anyone even noticing. If you're thinking about moving into a nursing home or helping someone else make that decision, take a moment to consider this truth. Connection isn't just about good intentions. It's about showing up, staying involved, making time. Because once someone is out of sight, it's alarmingly easy for them to slip out of mind. And no one, at any age, deserves to feel like they're waiting to be remembered. We all need to feel seen, heard, and loved, not just in memory, but in the present moment, where it still matters most. Lesson number 3, loss of purpose. One of the most difficult and often overlooked parts of aging, especially after moving into a nursing home, is the quiet but powerful loss of purpose. At home, even the smallest tasks gave life a sense of meaning. Making your morning coffee, tending to your garden, feeding a pet, folding laundry, or simply choosing what to cook for dinner were all subtle reminders that your presence mattered, that you had control, and that your actions contributed to the flow of daily life. But in a nursing home, those little responsibilities are quickly taken away. Meals are brought to you, beds are made, and someone else decides what needs to be done and when. At first, it might feel like a well-earned break. You tell yourself, now I can finally relax. But soon, the stillness starts to feel like emptiness. Days blend together, with nothing to look forward to but the next scheduled meal or medication. The joy of creating, contributing, or simply making decisions fades. You see it in the people around you too. Those who once had energy, routines, and passions now spend their days sitting in silence, staring into space, waiting for time to pass. Their minds grow quiet, not from age, but from a lack of stimulation. Hands that once held tools, brushes, books, or baking pans now sit idle. Their identities start to slip away, not because they're forgotten by others, but because they stop seeing themselves in action. Purpose doesn't have to be something grand. It can be as simple as feeding the birds each morning or writing a letter to a grandchild. It's about having something that reminds you, I am still needed. I still have something to offer. When that feeling disappears, so does the motivation to move, to speak, to smile. If you or someone you love is considering a nursing home, remember that comfort alone isn't enough. People need purpose just as much as they need food and rest. Without it, the spirit fades, the days stretch long and gray, and even the healthiest body begins to slow down. Purpose is what keeps the heart alive, the mind alert, and the soul grounded. So before letting go of routines and responsibilities, ask, what will keep you feeling useful, connected, and alive? Because without something to care about, we don't just age, we begin to disappear. Lesson number 4, declining health, faster than expected. One of the most unexpected and discouraging realities of moving into a nursing home is how quickly your physical health can begin to decline, even if you were relatively strong and independent beforehand. At first, the change feels like a relief. No more cooking, cleaning, shopping, or worrying about daily chores. Everything is taken care of. Meals are delivered, your room is tidied, and if you need help, all you have to do is press a button. But slowly, and almost without notice, the lack of movement begins to take a toll. Because when your body no longer has regular reasons to move, it begins to lose what it once had: muscle strength, energy, flexibility, and balance. You begin sitting more, walking less. Tasks that once felt simple, like getting up from a chair or reaching for something on a shelf, start to feel exhausting. Your legs grow stiff, your energy dips, and before long, your body feels heavier than it used to. You start needing assistance for things you used to do on your own. You see it in others too. Residents who arrived walking on their own 2 feet slowly transition to walkers, then to wheelchairs. It's not just age, it's the lack of daily movement. The irony is that everything designed to make life easier ends up making the body weaker. Convenience can be a hidden danger. When we stop using our muscles, we begin to lose them. And that loss happens much faster than we expect, especially in our later years. Our joints stiffen, our posture declines, and our physical confidence fades. Soon, a short walk down the hallway feels like a marathon. What's most concerning is how easy it is to fall into this pattern without realizing it. The environment of comfort unintentionally removes the daily effort our bodies need to stay strong. And without effort, there is no progress, only decline. If you or a loved one is considering moving into a nursing home, it's important to ask, will there still be opportunities, encouragement, and motivation to keep moving? Because staying physically active isn't just about exercise, it's about independence, dignity, and preserving your ability to live life on your own terms. Aging doesn't have to mean surrendering your strength, but maintaining that strength takes intention. It takes movement even when it's uncomfortable, because the moment you stop using your body, it starts to forget how. And getting it back is much harder than you think. Lesson number 5, loss of privacy and dignity. One of the most difficult and often overlooked aspects of moving into a nursing home is the gradual loss of privacy and dignity, two things that are deeply personal and hard-earned over a lifetime. At home, you're used to having your own space, your own rhythm, your own rules. You can choose when to rest, when to be alone, and how to go about your day without interruption. But in a nursing home, privacy becomes a luxury you no longer control. Staff members come in and out of your room regularly, often without warning, to check vital signs, deliver meals, or assist with medications. Even if they knock, they don't always wait. Your space, once your sanctuary, starts to feel like a hallway. And then there are the most personal tasks: bathing, dressing, and using the bathroom. Things you've done for yourself for decades suddenly require assistance. Even when the caregivers are kind and respectful, needing help with such intimate routines can feel deeply uncomfortable. It's humbling in a way that few people can understand until they experience it. There's a quiet erosion of self when you have to wait for someone else to help you clean your body or choose your clothing. And it doesn't stop there. In many cases, you don't have a private room, you're sharing it with a stranger. That means adjusting to someone else's habits, noise, schedule, and mood. You may be a quiet person paired with someone talkative, or someone who sleeps early, rooming with someone who stays up late. It can be exhausting to always compromise in a space that used to belong solely to you. Over time, this lack of control begins to wear down your sense of self. You stop feeling like an individual with autonomy and start feeling like a patient, managed by routines, guided by rules, and constantly adapting to an environment that rarely pauses for your comfort. You may even find yourself avoiding requests, staying silent, or not speaking up when you feel uncomfortable, because you don't want to be seen as difficult. That's what happens when dignity slips away. You begin to feel smaller in your own skin. If you or someone you love is considering a nursing home, it's essential to understand that the trade-off isn't just about medical care or convenience. It's about the ability to remain in charge of your life, your space, and your body. And once that control is gone, reclaiming it is far more difficult than anyone ever tells you. Lesson number 6, disconnection from the real world. One of the most subtle yet deeply felt consequences of moving into a nursing home is the gradual disconnection from the real world. In the beginning, it feels like a practical decision, a safe, structured environment with support and care. But over time, life begins to shrink. What once felt vibrant and full now feels confined within 4 walls. The small, everyday experiences that once brought joy and connection, like walking to the market, chatting with a neighbor, watching kids play outside, or simply feeling the sun on your face during a morning stroll, become rare or disappear entirely. You stop hearing the everyday sounds of life and start getting used to the quiet hum of the facility. The news feels more distant. Trends, technology, even major world events begin to seem like they belong to another generation, another life. Conversations around you revolve more around medications and routines than dreams or new experiences. The sense of being in tune with society slowly fades, and you start feeling like an outsider to the very world you used to be a part of. Days begin to blur together, each one resembling the last. Weekdays feel like weekends. Holidays lose their excitement. There are fewer surprises, fewer moments of spontaneity, and more predictability that, while comforting to some extent, can become emotionally numbing. You realize you're no longer part of the rhythm of life. You're watching it from the sidelines. This separation can lead to feelings of irrelevance, as though the world has moved on without you, as if you're no longer contributing or connected. It doesn't happen all at once. It builds slowly, quietly, until one day you notice how long it's been since you had a genuine conversation about something that wasn't medical or routine. You begin to wonder if you're still seen as a part of the community you once loved. If you or someone you love is considering a nursing home, it's important to look beyond the surface-level comforts and ask, what will be done to keep the spirit connected to the world outside? Because real life isn't just about safety and meals, it's about belonging, spontaneity, and feeling alive in a world that's still turning. When that connection fades, so does a part of the self. And once it's lost, reconnecting with the world outside can be more difficult than anyone ever prepares you for. Lesson 7. Harder to leave than you think. One of the biggest surprises for many people who move into a nursing home is discovering that leaving isn't nearly as easy as they thought it would be. At first, the decision feels flexible, something you can test out for a little while just to see how it goes. You might even tell yourself, if it doesn't feel right, I can always go back home. That belief provides comfort during the transition, but the reality is far more complicated. For many, the home they left behind starts to change almost immediately. Family members may sell, rent, or repurpose the space, assuming you won't need it again. Furniture is moved, belongings are given away, and suddenly, your old home no longer feels like it's yours. On top of that, time in a nursing home often leads to physical decline. Because so much is done for you, meals, cleaning, mobility support, you naturally move less, and your strength begins to fade. Tasks you once handled with ease, like cooking, climbing stairs, or even taking a walk, begin to feel daunting. And it's not just your body that changes, your confidence takes a hit too. You start questioning whether you could manage alone again. The thought of living without 24/7 support becomes intimidating. What if you fall? What if something happens in the middle of the night? That fear, quiet but persistent, grows stronger with each passing week. And before you know it, the idea of returning home feels less like freedom and more like a risk you're no longer sure you can take. You see this all around you. People who moved in just for a short time, but stayed for good, not because they wanted to, but because going back no longer felt possible. The longer you stay, the more rooted you become in the routines of the facility, and the harder it is to imagine a life outside of it. What once was a choice slowly transforms into your only option. That's why before making the move, it's so important to think carefully, not just about what you're walking into, but also what you might be walking away from for good. Because once you cross that threshold, getting out isn't just about packing a bag and walking away. It's about rebuilding the physical strength, emotional courage, and practical support you'll need to live independently again. And that journey is far harder than most people ever expect. What would it truly mean to trade your independence, privacy, and connection to the outside world for comfort and care? This powerful story from an 81-year-old man isn't meant to criticize nursing homes, but to open our eyes to the deeper realities many never talk about. Through his 7 heartfelt regrets, we're reminded that even well-intentioned decisions can have lasting emotional consequences. It's not just about safety, it's about identity, purpose, and dignity. And once you step into a world where your choices are limited, routines are scheduled, and connections fade, returning to your old life isn't as simple as you might think. So, if you're considering this step for yourself or a loved one, take a moment to pause. Reflect on what truly matters most at this stage of life. Is it convenience, or is it the freedom to live on your own terms for as long as possible? If this video gave you something to think about, please give it a like. It helps us reach more people who may need to hear this message. We'd love to hear from you in the comments. Which of these regrets stood out to you the most and why? And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss future stories that speak honestly, gently, and powerfully to the choices we all must one day face.